In this video, we take a look at managing users in TransLution. Managing users is done using TransLution EazySetup. Log in with your credentials. Select User Maintenance on the main menu. Here we see a range of options for managing users. We can add users, allocate users to companies, allocate users to groups, copy user permissions, and merge company users. Let's take a look at the user maintenance first. The user maintenance form is used to create new users or to modify the details of existing users. This form is only available to site admin users. User admins can only add users to one company at a time, and they do this from the Allocate User to Company form, which we cover next. The left-hand panel shows a list of all users in the system across all sites. The right-hand panel shows the details of the selected user and allows new users to be added to TransLution. This form is used to add or edit users and to deactivate users if required. Note that the admin user cannot be deactivated. In order to add a new user, simply click on the New button, and the User Detail tab will be cleared of all data, allowing you to enter the information for the new user. At a minimum, users need a login name, first name, and password. All the other fields are optional. The Force Password Change forces the user on the first login to enter a new password if this is selected. The Allow Password Change allows the users to change their passwords. If passwords are printed and scanned, this should not be set. The Site Admin is used to enable the user as a site admin user. Only other site admins can create a new site admin. The Super User option allows the user to define the look and feel of any grid overlay function area by using layouts. They can control the font size, line color, filtering, and grouping on a per function area basis. The Language ID defaults to 1 and should not be changed unless the TransLution language support is used. The Printer name is the default printer for that user. This is required if printing is done to default user printers, and you should be given this information before creating a new user. If there are additional columns added to the user table in the TransLution utility control database and to the app user table in each company database, then this grid will have additional columns as shown here. The additional fields are not validated by TransLution, but can be used for any custom logic or reporting purposes. An example is shown here with two fields, the Syspro WIP user and team. Remember, if your site uses this information, it must be supplied to you before you create a new user. For the purposes of this video, we are adding a user called Test1. Once we enter the user information, we click on Save. We see the user has been added to the right-hand side panel list of users and shows as active. Note that the login name is always converted to uppercase. When the user logs into TransLution, the login name is not case sensitive. Of course, as standard, the password must be entered exactly as entered here. As a site admin, you can add a user to any company, but as a user admin, you can only add a user to a specific company that you have been given access to. In order to add a user as a user admin, select the Allocate User Company menu option. Right-click anywhere in the grid on the right-hand side, and then click on Create a User. You will see the same form to create a user as we saw before. Once we have successfully created the user, the next step is to allocate the user to a company. Here we select the Allocate User Company menu option. Select the site and select the company you want to allocate the user to by clicking on the drop-down. Search for the user you need to work with on the left-hand side panel of available users and tick the box next to the username. Next, tick on the arrow to allocate the user to the selected company. You will now see their name on the right-hand side grid. This is where you can also define rules around user logons for multiple logons and auto logoff. Let's explain multiple logons versus auto logoff. When allocating a user to a company, you are able to select various logon options. The two fields are Allow multiple logons and Auto logoff. These options work as follows. If neither option is selected, then the user can only log on to one device at a time. If they try to log on to a second device, they will see this message. The same logic applies to both EasyTouch and Android. You can change the default behavior by selecting either Auto logoff or Allow multiple logins, never both. When Auto logoff option is selected, the user can still log on to one device at a time, but now there is no warning message shown. They are simply logged off any other device that they may have logged on to. This is the recommended option. Multiple logons is a special case. Say you need someone to log on to a scanner and a PC at the same time. You would then select this option. A reason for doing this would be someone scanning items in receiving and then using the grid to review the scans and post the data to the ERP. You can select as many users as you like to allocate to a company, but they can only be allocated to one company at a time. Once the user has been added to the company, we can then allocate them to a user group. Select the menu option Allocate User Group. Select the company you are working on, and then select the user group you want to allocate the users to. The Available Users tab lists all the users in the company not yet allocated to the selected group. Select one or more users and click on the arrow to add them to the user group. The Allocated Users tab shows all users allocated to the selected group. You can select a user and remove them from the group by clicking on the left arrow. Site admin users will see all companies and all groups on this form. User admin users will only see companies and groups they have access to. If you want to add a new group or to change a group name, you can do that here. To edit a group, right-click to open the Group Maintenance form. To add a new group, select the New Group button, name the new group, and click on Save. There is a useful right-click option to view all the groups that the selected user has access to. Simply right-click on the user and a box pops up showing you all the groups that the selected user currently belongs to. If you have a large number of groups, allocating permissions for all users to the various groups can take a lot of time. The form Copy User Permissions makes this job a lot easier. The process works best if you define one user to have all the group permissions you require. You can then copy those permissions to all the other users who need the same permissions. The users have to exist and the user creation process has to be followed so that each user can have their unique username and password. By copying permissions can save a lot of time and effort. Start by selecting the user whose permissions you want to replicate to other users. You will see what companies and user groups they have access to. Then select all the other users you want to have the same permissions and select Copy User. In this example, after selecting Copy User, the two selected users will have all the same permissions as the user A. Herrera. Remove existing allocations on target. If you check this box, then when you do the copy, the target users will lose any existing permissions they had and end up with exactly the same permissions as the user you selected to copy. If you do not select this box, then if the target user had existing permissions, they will keep those permissions in addition to the newly copied permissions. This option gives a great deal of flexibility, but it is probably simpler to clear the existing permissions first before copying to ensure that you know exactly what permissions the user will have. You'll get this message once successfully copied. The Merge Company Users form is only used when you are adding new companies to a site. This ensures that any users that exist in that company are added to the TransLution site. For day-to-day use, you will not need to use this form. and how to use this form is described as part of the company creation process. We hope this has been useful, and thank you for your time.